Let's get started. And settled for chapter 3. All right. So if you haven't watched my 2 previous live streams, I have read A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens aloud, and my followers and subscribers have come onto my channel to kind of read along with me or listen to me as an audiobook. It's kind of like an interactive stream, and yeah, I think we'll just jump right into it as it's been a few days. Okay, so A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, Stave 3, the second of the 3 spirits. Awaking in the middle of the prodigiously tough snore and sitting up in bed to get his thoughts together, Scrooge had no occasion to be told that the bell was again upon the stroke of 1. He felt that he was restored to the consciousness, right nick in the time. I'm going to repeat that. He felt that he was restored to the consciousness in the right nick of time for the special purpose of holding a conference with the second messenger dispatched to him through Jacob Marley's intervention. Graham says, hoping mistress is well. Yes, Graham, hello. It's nice for you to come and join my stream today. You finally made one. But finding that he turned uncomfortably cold when he began to wonder which of his curtains this new specter would draw back, he put them every one aside with his own hands, and lying down again established a sharp lookout all round the bed, for he wished to challenge the spirit on the moment of its appearance, and did not wish to be taken by surprise and made nervous. Tom Smith says, wow, my queen is very beautiful and gorgeous. Thank you. Nice of you to join my live stream, as usual. All right. Gentlemen of the free and easy sort, who plume themselves on being acquainted with a move or two, and being usually equal to the time of day, expressed the wide range of their capacity for adventure by observing that they are good for anything from pitch and toss to manslaughter. Well, that's a range, all right. Between which opposite extremes, no doubt, there lies a tolerably wide and comprehensive range of subjects. Without venturing for Scrooge quite as heartedly as this, I don't mind calling on you to believe that he was ready for a good broad field of strange appearances, and that nothing between a baby and a rhinoceros would have astonished him very much. Well, I guess after actually speaking to two ghosts, and having gone through, the past, I guess, yeah, nothing would surprise him now. He's, ready and waiting. Graham says, my pleasure, ma'am. You look enchanting today. Thank you. I did a lot of filming today, so I'm a little, I'm still wound up from the adrenaline from that, and so I'm going to be, I guess, decompressing a little bit, and what better way to do that than to read a little bit of a book. Now, being prepared for almost anything, he was not by any means prepared for nothing, and, consequently, when the bell struck 1, and no shape appeared, he was taken with a violent fit of trembling. Suspense. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a quarter of an hour went by, yet nothing came. All this time he lay upon his bed, the very core and center of a blaze of ruddy light, which streamed upon it when the clock proclaimed the hour, and which, being only light, was more alarming than a dozen ghosts, as he was powerless to make out what it meant, or would be at, and was sometimes apprehensive that he might be, at that very moment, an interesting case of spontaneous combustion, without having the consolation of knowing it. At last, however, he began to think, as you or I would have thought at first, for it is always the person not in the predicament who knows what ought to have been done in it. Now that's so true. Everybody can always give advice, but then when it comes to them, they can't take their own advice because they're too close to the situation, and would unquestionably have done it too. At last, I say, he began to think that the source and secret of this ghostly light might be in the adjoining room, from whence, on further tracing, it seemed to shine. This idea taking full possession of his mind, he got up softly and shuffled in his slippers to the door. Nate says, "Hi, Domina, a few minutes late, but I didn't know this was coming today. I do not consent to punishment." Miss Lamau, red heart. It was his own room, there was no doubt about that. But it had undergone a surprising transformation. The walls and ceiling were so hung with living green that it looked a perfect grove, from every part of which bright gleaming berries glistened. The crisp leaves of holly, mistletoe, and ivy reflected back in the light as if so many little mirrors had been scattered there. And such a mighty blaze went roaring up the chimney as that dull petrification of a hearth had never known in Scrooge's time, or Marley's, or for many, many a winter season gone. Heaped up on the floor to form a kind of throne were turkeys, geese, game, poultry, brawn, great joints of meats, sucking pigs, long wreaths of sausages, cherry-cheeked apples, juicy oranges, luscious pears, immense 12th cakes, and seething bowls of punch. I want that one. That made the chamber dim with their delicious steam. In easy state upon this couch, there sat a jolly giant, glorious to see, who bore a glowing torch, in shape not unlike Plenty's horn. It held it up high up to shed its light on Scrooge as he came peeping round the door. "Come in," exclaimed the ghost. "Come in and know me better, man." Scrooge entered timidly and hung his head before the spirit. He was not the dogged Scrooge he had been, and though the spirit's eyes were clear and kind, he did not like to meet them. Graham says, "I was in an amateur stage production of A Christmas Carol in my mid-teens, which we performed to raise money for a group of steam engine enthusiasts." I had a broken arm at the time. Oh, was that the broken arm from your school visit? "I am the ghost of Christmas past," said the spirit. "Look upon me." Scrooge reverently did so. It was clothed in one simple green robe, or mantle, bordered with white fur. This garment hung so loosely on the figure that its capacious breast was bare, as if disdaining to be warded or concealed by any artifice. Its feet, observably beneath the ample folds of the garment, were also bare. And on its head it wore no other covering than a holly wreath, set here and there with shining icicles. Its dark brown curls were long and free as its genial face. Its sparkling eye, its open hand, its cheery voice, its unconstrained demeanor, and its joyful air. Girded round its middle was an antique scabbard, but no sword was in it, and the ancient sheath was eaten up with rust. So he's kind of like a pirate Santa without a sword. Graham says skateboard accident. Oh man. Tahir says hi. Hello, welcome to my stream. Never, Scrooge made answer to it. Have never walked forth with the younger members of my family, meaning, for I am very young, my elder brothers born in this later years, pursued the phantom. I don't think I have, said Scrooge. I am afraid I have not. Have you had many brothers, Spirit? More than 1,800, said the ghost. Uh-oh. Hang on, I have someone picking up packages for me. Included in these packages is Batman Noel, courtesy of Nate. So let me just let this person know that he needs to pick up a few. One moment. Bradley says, hey, I'm back, Miss Mara. Hope you're doing good. Your is the incorrect word. It's with an E at the end. Check your grammar, Bradley. Since we are looking at literature today. And I have one more. 4241. Okay. Mark Scott says, thumbs up, black heart, red heart, huggy face, thumbs up. I like to know this. I love you. Hello, Mark. Bradley says, I'm sorry, I didn't pay attention. Graham says, I heartily recommend the BBC's Black Adder's Christmas Carol made in the 1980s. A very amusing parody. Yeah, a lot of people who have come onto my stream to listen to me speak have actually given quite a few recommendations on either past movies or movies inspired by, which are also comedy. So it's really cool that you guys are so knowledgeable about all the things at Christmas Carol. Okay. Nate says, don't forget a certain graphic novel. I just said that someone was going to go get it right now. You didn't pay attention. Go sit in the corner. And no texting for 5 minutes. The ghost of Christmas present rose. Spirit, said Scrooge submissively. Ha ha, I want to see what his submissively is like. Conduct me where you will. I went forth last night on a compulsion, and I learned a lesson, which is working now. Tonight, if you have aught to teach me, let me profit by it. Touch my robe. Scrooge did as he was told and held it fast. Holly, mistletoe, red berries, ivy, turkeys, geese, game, poultry, brawn, meat, pigs, sausages, oysters, pies, puddings, fruit, and punch all vanished instantly. So did the room, the fire, the ruddy glow, the hour of the night, and they stood in the streets on Christmas morning, where, for the weather was severe, the people made rough, but brisk and not unpleasant kind of music, in scraping the snow from the pavement in front of their dwellings and from the tops of their houses, whence it was mad delight to the boys to see it come plumping down onto the road below and splitting into artificial little snowstorms. The house fronts looked black enough, and the windows blacker, contrasting with the smooth white sheet of snow upon the roofs, and the dirtier snow upon the ground, which last deposit had been plowed up in deep furrows by the heavy wheels of carts and wagons. Furrows that crossed and recrossed each other hundreds of times, where the great streets branched off and made intricate channels, hard to trace in the thick yellow mud and icy water. The sky was gloomy, and the shortest streets were choked up with a dingy mist, half thawed, half frozen, whose heavier particles descended in the shower of sooty atoms, as if all the chimneys in Great Britain had, by one consent, caught fire, and were blazing away to their dear heart's content. There was nothing very cheerful in the climate or the town, and yet there was an air of cheerfulness abroad that the clearest summer air and the brightest summer sun might have endeavored to diffuse in vain. Beautiful. Yes. Graham says, the description of festive food is making me hungry. I know, I'm kind of half expecting a feast to show up in front of me by this jovial phantom and specter, if you will, because I want a happy ghost who's going to provide for me on Christmas Eve. For the people who were shoveling away on the housetops were jovial and full of glee, calling out to one another from the parapets. Oh, they use jovial too. We are in alignment, Dickens and I. George says, hi. Hello, George. Welcome to my channel. I am on page 2 of chapter 3 of A Christmas Carol. Calling out to one another from the parapets, and now and then exchanging a facetious snowball, better-natured missile far than many a wordy jest, laughing heartily if it went right, and not less heartily if it went wrong. The poulterers' shops were still half open, and the fruiterers were radiant in their glory. There were great round pot-bellied baskets of chestnuts shaped like the waistcoats of jolly old gentlemen, lolling at the doors and tumbling out into the streets in their apoplectic opulence. There were ruddy, brown-faced, broad-girthed Spanish friars, and winking from their shelves in wanton slyness at the girls as they went by, and glanced demurely at the hung up mistletoe. Wait, were they allowed to do that? I thought friars were supposed to have pledged chastity. But who knows what they did off duty. There were pears and apples clustered high in blooming pyramids. There were bunches of grapes made in the shopkeeper's benevolence to dangle from conspicuous hooks, that people's mouths might water gratis as they passed. There were piles of filberts, mossy and brown, recalling in their fragrance ancient walks among the woods, and pleasant shufflings ankle-deep through withered leaves. There were Norfolk biffins, squab and swarthy, setting off the yellow of the oranges and lemons, and, in the great compactness of their juicy persons, urgently entreating and beseeching to be carried home in paper bags and eaten after dinner. The very gold and silver fish set forth among these choice fruits in a bowl, the members of a dull and stagnant bloodied race, appeared to know that there was something going on, and, to a fish, went gasping round and round their little world in slow, passionless excitement. Graham says the pre-Christian festival of Yule takes its name from the Anglo-Saxon super month, Gwyli, Julie, Yule, which lasted through what is now December and January. Yes, that is where the Yule log and the Yule boar and the Yule goat and the Yule tidings, like Christmas carols, came from, right? Liam says, you started early, meaning I can follow it. That music in the background is very distracting. It's my holiday theme. I can't, like, just read and not have some ambiance. Nate says, I thought no text for 5 minutes, or was that for me? Lol. By the way, the corner already there. Hehe. That was for you. That means you can't text on live chat for 5 minutes. You must be silent. Liam says, makes sense. All right. Continuing on with the third chapter of A Christmas Carol. Ooh. Okay. Nate says, isn't the 5 minutes up? I have 17 things going on right now, lol. How about you wait till the page is ended and I will let you know when it's ended and then you can stop. Okay. The Grocers, oh the Grocers, nearly closed with perhaps 2 shutters down, or 1. But through those gaps such glimpses. It was not alone that the scales descending on the counter made a merry sound, or that the twine and roller parted company so briskly, or that the canisters were rattled up and down like juggling tricks, or even the blended scents of tea and coffee were so grateful to the nose. Oh man, I want a cup of tea now. Or even that the raisins were so plentiful and rare, the almonds so extremely white, the sticks of cinnamon so long and straight, the other spices so delicious, the candied fruits so caked and spotted with molten sugar as to make the coldest lookers on feel faint and subsequently bilious. I'd be drooling all over that also. Nor was it the figs that were moist and pulpy. I'm so dyslexic today. Nor was it the figs that were moist and pulpy, or that the French plums blushed in the modest tartness from their highly decorated boxes, or that everything was good to eat and in its Christmas dress. But the customers were all so hurried and so eager in the hopeful promise of the day that they tumbled up against each other at the door, crashing their wicker baskets wildly, and left their purchases upon the counter, and came running back to fetch them, and committed hundreds of the like mistakes in the best humor possible, while the grocer and his people were so frank and fresh that the polished hearts with which they fastened their aprons behind might have been their own. Worn outside for general inspection and for Christmas dolls to peck at if they chose. That's such a pleasant, like, everyday example of, like, a holiday season. That's so great. Like, the rustle and bustle of, like, preparing for stuff at the market the day beforehand or the day of. Liam says, but I prefer my Dom's voice over the music. Tongue out face. Graham says the pagan traditions of decorating houses and halls with greenery, gift giving, and light provided by candles and the Yule log survived into modern times. Mistress is correct about the other customs. Yay. Benny says, hi, Miss Mara. Nice to see you. Nice to see you too, Benny. Graham says, honoring the dead was also customary. A good season for ghost stories. Oh, no wonder Charles Dickens brought up, like, a bunch of ghosts. I thought he was just kind of like this romantic, kind of gothic, kind of sarcastic, but really low-key funny. I guess not low-key, because he makes a lot of statements in exclamations, like, writer. Liam says, you have a lovely voice. Did you ever do anything voice-wise of training? No. When I was younger, I wanted to be a singer, but I mean, I was in school choir. I ended up playing instruments though, where I should have tried to at least like played a part on stage, but I also just I didn't want to like memorize lines and stuff. I don't know. It's a very contradictory, tumultuous type of relationship I have with what I could have been or what I could have done when I was early on in my age. I don't know. But yeah. But soon the steeples called good people all to church and chapel, and away they came, flocking through the streets in their best clothes, with their gayest faces. And at the same time, there emerged from scores of by-streets, lanes, and nameless turnings, innumerable people carrying their dinners to the bakers' shops. The sight of these poor revelers appeared to interest the spirit very much, for he stood with Scrooge beside him in the baker's doorway, and taking off the covers as their bearers passed, sprinkling incense on their dinners from his torch. And it was very uncommon kind of torch, for once or twice, when there were angry words between some dinner carriers who had jostled each other, he shed a few drops of water on them from it, and their good humor was restored directly. Wow, that's a cool power. For they said it was a shame to quarrel upon Christmas Day, and so it was. God love it, so it was. All right, I'm on to the next page. Nate, you can end your silence for now. Or I should say resume your chats now. Graham says one suspects that Dickens was poking fun at the newly established Gothic literary genre in a postmodern way. Totally. I so get that. Like in my first couple of, actually the first reading that I did, the first chapter, I already got that. And I don't think I got that when I was reading it in high school, because I just thought that the way that he verbalized everything was just old and English. But actually, he's quite funny, and I really, really enjoy him now. Which makes me wonder if I need to read Great Expectations again, because I detested that book. And I had to watch the movie too. But oh my gosh, I kind of died inside when I had to read that. Nate says, yes, gag is awful. Thank you for your domination, Tom, and a winky face. All in good fun. In time the bells ceased and the bakers were shut up, and yet there was a genial shadowing forth of all these dinners and the progress of their cooking. In the thawed blotch of wet above each baker's oven, where the pavements smoked as if its stones were cooking too. Liam says she shuts you up and ignores me. She's scary. She knows how to hit specific subs. Tongue out face. If I didn't, I wouldn't be a good professional, and I wouldn't be a good dom. Graham says, I read Oliver Twist during my English and drama degree course. I did as well, and I watched the movie too. Please, sir, may I have some more? Oh man, it was great. And I love the song afterwards too. Liam says, what punishment do you specialize in? A lot of them. Probably the one that I enjoy most is CBT. Is there a peculiar flavor in what you sprinkle from your torch? Asks Scrooge. There is, my own. Would you apply it to any kind of dinner on this day? Asked Scrooge. To any kindly given, to a poor one most. Why to a poor one most? Asked Scrooge. Man, he's like a child. Because it needs it most. Spirit, said Scrooge, after a moment's thought, I wonder you, of all the beings in the many worlds about us, should desire to cramp these people's opportunities of innocent enjoyment. I, cried the Spirit, you would deprive them of their means of dining each 7th day, often the only day on which they can be said to dine at all, said Scrooge. Wouldn't you? I, cried the Spirit, you seek to close these places on the 7th day, said Scrooge, and it comes to the same thing. Does he think he's Jesus? I seek, exclaimed the Spirit. Forgive me if I'm wrong. It has been done in your name, or at least in that of your family, said Scrooge. There are some upon this earth of yours, returned the Spirit, who lay claim to know us, and who do their deeds of passion, pride, ill will, hatred, envy, bigotry, and selfishness in our name, who are as strange to us and all our kith and kin as if they had never lived. Remember that, and charge their doings on themselves, not us. That's a good lesson, actually. Graham says, no one could possibly deny Mistress more gruel when she asked for it. I shouldn't even have gruel. I should have, like, all the stuff that they say in the Christmas Carol. The feast of pheasants or whatever. And game. Nate says, oh wait, thank you for not forgetting me, Domina. I feared with the book and the many in the chat that I would be forgotten. Thank you, Red Heart. Yeah, see? I'm aware. Scrooge promised that he would, and then they went on, invisible as they had been before, into the suburbs of the town. It was a remarkable quality of the ghost, which Scrooge had observed at the baker's, that notwithstanding his gigantic size, could accommodate himself to any place with ease, and that he stood beneath a low roof quite as gracefully like a supernatural creature as it was possible he could have done in any lofty hall. And perhaps it was the pleasure the good Spirit had in showing off this power of his, or else was his own kind, generous, hearty nature, and his sympathy with all poor men that led him straight to Scrooge's clerks. For there he went and took Scrooge with him, holding to his robe. And on the threshold of the door, the Spirit smiled and stopped to bless Bob Cratchit's dwelling with the sprinkling of his torch. Think of that. Bob had but 15 bob a week himself. He pocketed on Saturdays but 15 copies of his Christian name, and yet the ghost of Christmas present blessed his 4-roomed house. Yeah, 'cause he's poor, remember? And you're not giving him anything. You know, this Ghost of Christmas Present actually reminds me of Hagrid from Harry Potter in his physical and personality likeliness. Graham says, pheasants are very common in Derbyshire, around the town of Ashburn in particular. Do you eat them, or are they just free birds that roam around? Then up rose Mrs. Cratchit's wife, dressed out but poorly in a twice-turned gown, but brave in ribbons, which are cheap and make a goodly show for 6pence. She laid the cloth, assisted by Belinda Cratchit, second of her daughters, also brave in ribbons, while Master Peter Cratchit plunged a fork into the saucepan of potatoes, and getting the corners of his monstrous shirt collar, Bob's private property, conferred upon his son and heir in honor of the day, into his mouth, rejoiced to find himself so gallantly attired, and yearned to show his linen to the fashionable parks. And now 2 smaller Cratchits, boy and girl, came tearing in, screaming that outside the baker's they had smelt the goose, and known it for their own. And basking in luxurious thoughts of sage and onion, these young Cratchits danced about the table and exalted Master Peter Cratchit to the skies, while he, not proud, although his collars nearly choked him, blew the fire, until the slow potatoes bubbling up knocked loudly at the saucepan lid to be let out and peeled. "What has ever got your precious father, then?" said Mrs. Cratchit. "And your brother, Tiny Tim, and Martha weren't as late last Christmas Day by half an hour." "Here's Martha, mother," said a girl appearing as she spoke. "Here's Martha, mother," cried two young Cratchits. "Hurrah! There's such a goose, Martha." "Why, bless your heart alive, my dear, how late you are," said Mrs. Cratchit, kissing her a dozen times and taking off her shawl and bonnet for her with officious zeal. "We'd a deal of work to finish up last night," replied the girl, "and had to clear away this morning, mother." "Well, never mind, so long as you are come," said Mrs. Cratchit. "Sit ye down before the fire, my dear, and have a warm, Lord bless ye." "No, no, there's father coming," cried the two young Cratchits, who were everywhere at once. "Hide, Martha, hide." They're so cute. Nate says, collars. Winky face. Wanna wear them. Graham says, "Oh, they're edible. I took my first serious girlfriend to a nearby country house hotel where we had pheasant and champagne." Wow, what a nice date. So Martha hid herself, and in came little Bob, the father, with at least 3 feet of comforter exclusive of the fringe, hanging down before him, and his threadbare clothes darned up and brushed to look seasonable, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas, for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch, and had his limbs supported by an iron frame. "Why, where's our Martha?" cried Bob Cratchit, looking around. "Not coming," said Mrs. Cratchit. "Not coming," said Bob, with a sudden declension in his high spirits, for he had been Tim's blood horse all the way from church, and had come home rampant. "Not coming upon Christmas Day." Martha didn't like to see him disappointed, if it only were in joke. So she came out prematurely from behind the closet door and ran into his arms, while the two young Cratchits hustled Tiny Tim and bore him off to the wash house, that he might bear the pudding singing in the copper. "And how did little Tim behave?" asked Mrs. Cratchit, when he had rallied Bob on his credulity. Oh my God. Credulity. And Bob had hugged his daughter to his heart's content. I'm not even drinking. I'm reading this sober. It's been a long day. "As good as gold," said Bob, "and better. Somehow he gets thoughtful, sitting himself so much, and thinks the strangest things you ever heard. He told me, coming home, that he hoped people saw him in the church because he was a cripple, and it might be pleasant to them to remember upon Christmas Day who made lame beggars walk and blind men see." Bob's voice was tremulous when he told them this, and trembled more when he said that Tiny Tim was growing strong and hearty. His active little crutch was heard upon the floor, and back came Tiny Tim before another word was spoken, escorted by his brother and sister to his stool up before the fire. And while Bob, turning up his cuffs as if, poor fellow, they were capable of making more shabby, compounded some hot mixture in a jug with gin and lemons, and strewed it round and round and put it on the hob to simmer. Master Peter and the two ubiquitous young Cratchits went to fetch the goose, with which they soon returned in high procession. Nate says, credulity. I kept on wanting to say credulous and for some reason. So I had to like stop thinking that so quickly because I was going to say it out loud. And then I stopped mid-word and then tried it again, but it ended up almost stuttering. So I had to slow down. Such a bustle ensued that you might have thought a goose the rarest of all birds, a feathered phenomenon. Ooh, I love that, feathered phenomenon. To which a black swan was a matter of course, and in truth was something very like it in that house. Mrs. Cratchit made the gravy, ready beforehand in a little saucepan, hissing hot. Master Peter smashed the potatoes with incredible vigor. Miss Belinda sweetened up the applesauce. Martha dusted the hot plates. Bob took Tiny Tim beside him in a tiny corner at the table. The two young Cratchits set chairs for everybody, not forgetting themselves, and mounting guard upon their posts, crammed spoons into their mouths, lest they could shriek for goose before their turn came to be helped. As the dishes were set on and grace was said, it was succeeded by a breathless pause, as Mrs. Cratchit looked slowly along the carving knife, prepared to plunge it in the breast. But when she did, and when the long-expected gush of stuffing issued forth, one murmur of delight arose all round the board, and even Tiny Tim, excited by the two young Cratchits, beat on the table with the handle of his knife and feebly cried, "Hurrah!" Nate says a feathered phenomenon, aka tickle torture. In my book, yes, indeed. There was never such a goose. Bob said he didn't believe there was such a goose cooked. Its tenderness and flavor, size and cheapness were the themes of universal admiration. Eked out by applesauce and mashed potatoes, it was a sufficient dinner for the whole family. Indeed, as Mrs. Cratchit said with great delight, surveying one small atom of a bone upon the dish, they hadn't ate it all at last. Yet everyone had had enough, and the youngest Cratchits in particular were steeped in sage and onion to the eyebrows. But now the plates were being changed by Miss Belinda. Mrs. Cratchit left the room alone, too nervous to bear witness, to take the pudding up and bring it in. Suppose it should not be enough. Suppose it should break in turning out. Suppose somebody should have got over the wall of the backyard and stolen it while they were merry with the goose. A supposition at which the two young Cratchits became livid. All sorts of horrors were supposed. Man, she's got anxiety. Graham says, Dickens would have sympathized with the occasional verbal slip. He given many public readings of his work, a shameless self-promoter. I mean, honestly, like, I am not a professional reader, obviously, and I haven't read a book out loud since I was really young, so I think I'm doing okay. But I'm doing this for fun also. It's not like somebody is paying me to read in proper English with, I mean, I guess I have the enthusiasm, but I'm not I'm not reading in each character as it is. Stephen says, you're doing pretty good so far. Thank you, Stephen. Graham says, Mistress is most entertaining. Thank you, guys. Hello. A great deal of steam. The pudding was out of the copper. A smell like a washing day. That was the cloth. A smell like an eating house and a pastry cook's next door to each other, with a laundress next door to that. That was the pudding. In half a minute, Mrs. Cratchit entered, flustered but smiling proudly, with the pudding, like a speckled cannonball, so hard and firm, blazing in half of half a quartern of ignited brandy, and bedight with Christmas holly stuck into the top. Actually, that's true. Like, whenever somebody took out like a souffle that was just coming out of the oven because they timed it to be hot and ready and expanded at its fullest in its glory, it was presented out into the dining room before it can collapse, because you're supposed to cut it and serve it to everybody while it's still like elevated. And everybody kind of like didn't breathe. Everybody was silent for it. And because any loud movement could have deflated it at some point, I think. Steven says, would you read it with a Victorian accent if someone tipped you to? I don't think my British accent would be good enough for that. However, I recently watched this video on lots of pronunciation basics from a British fellow on YouTube. But yeah, if somebody tipped me, I would try. Depending on how big the tip would be, how long I would read either a paragraph, a page, etc. Nate says, I don't know if anyone else is doing this, but Domina, I'm reading along with you. Smiley face. Oh, that's great. Probably will help you because I mess up on a bunch of words. But yeah, if anybody wants to follow along, I'm reading it here. And I'll pin that to the top of the page. Graham says, I've known a few Cockneys, so I've had plenty of experience with a London accent. Wait, what accent do you have? Would it be called a Derbyshire accent? Or something else? Okay, let's see. Nate says, that's where I'm reading too. Great minds think alike. That was the first thing that came up that was that was free, so that's why I chose it. And also it was very organized. I like that you could click by chapter. Oh, a wonderful pudding, Bob Cratchit said, and calmly too, that he regarded it as the greatest success achieved by Mrs. Cratchit since their marriage. Mrs. Cratchit said that now the weight was off her mind. She would confess she had had her doubts about the quantity of flour. Everybody had something to say about it, but nobody said or thought it was at all a small pudding for a large family. It would have been a flat heresy to do so. Any Cratchit would have blushed to hint at such a thing. At last the dinner was all done, the cloth was cleared, the hearth swept, and the fire made up, the compound in the jug being tasted and considered perfect. Apples and oranges were put upon the table, and a shovel full of chestnuts on the fire. Then all the Cratchit family drew round the hearth in what Bob Cratchit called a circle, meaning half a one. And at Bob Cratchit's elbow stood the family display of glass. 2 tumblers and a custard cup without a handle. These held the hot stuff from the jug, however, as well as golden goblets would have done, and Bob served it out with beaming looks while the chestnuts on the fire sputtered and crackled noisily. Then Bob proposed, "A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us," which all the family re-echoed. "God bless us, everyone," said Tiny Tim, the last of all. Graham says, An ex-girlfriend was from a Jamaican family, but born within the sound of bow bells, so she had a classic Cockney tone. My accent is middle-class North Midlands, flat vowels, very BBC. That's the same as the gentleman who taught that British accent tutorial that I watched. I watched it yesterday, actually. It was very like, can't and ask. And no R's. You don't say hard, you say hard. Odd. But yes. Steven says I have an Oliverian. Oh my gosh, I'm so dyslexic, you guys. Oliverian. Oliver N. Oliverian accent. Oh my god, you guys should just get a drink. This will sound better when we review this. Because I listened to all of my streams at least once after the day after that I post it, just to see what it's like. And this is kind of ridiculous today, but it's okay because I'm having fun. And like I said, had a really long day. He sat very close to his father's side upon his little stool. Bob held his withered little hand in his, as if he loved the child and wished to keep him by his side, and dreaded that he might have been taken from him. Spirit, said Scrooge, with an interest he had never felt before, tell me if Tiny Tim will live. I see a vacant seat, replied the ghost, in the poor chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner, carefully preserved. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future with a capital F, the child will die. No, no, said Scrooge. Oh no, kind spirit, say he will be spared. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, none other of my race, returned the ghost, will find him here. What then? If he be like to die, he had better do it and decrease the surplus population. Ooh, so good. He is literally repeating what Scrooge had said in the beginning, in the very first chapter, where he was telling the two guys who had came to him and been like, can we not decrease the population if they... Oh no, his nephew. He was like, people should just die for saying Merry Christmas because there's nothing to be merry about, especially when they're poor or can't afford to live a normal lifestyle. Ah, such a good burn. Steven says it's the type of accent all the foxy ladies love. Well then, I shall have to hear you speak sometime. Graham says, as in Laurence Olivier. I take it? Oh, Olivier N? Accent. The stream seems okay to me. Oh, because Nate said, Domina, not to alarm you, but the live keeps pausing. I don't know if it's me, but a heads up. I have it playing on my laptop that I'm reading off of, and it hasn't seemed to stop or pause, so I think we're good. Try to refresh, or maybe you have too many tabs open. Scrooge hung his head to hear his own words quoted by the spirit, and was overcome with penance and grief. Man, said the ghost, if man you be in heart, not adamant, forbear that wicked cant, until you have discovered what the surplus is, and where it is. Will you decide what men shall have, what men shall die? It may be that in the sight of heaven, you're more worthless and less fit to live than millions like this poor man's child. O God, to hear the insect on the leaf pronouncing on the too much life among his hungry brothers in the dust. Scrooge bent before the ghost's rebuke, and trembling cast his eyes upon the ground, but he raised them speedily on hearing his own name. Mr. Scrooge, said Bob. I'll give you Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast. The founder of the feast, indeed, said Mrs. Cratchit, reddening. I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast upon. And I hope he'd have a good appetite for it. My dear, said Bob, the children, Christmas Day. It should be Christmas Day, I am sure, she said, on which one drinks the health of such an odious, stingy, hard, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge. You know he is, Robert. Nobody knows it better than you, poor fellow. Nate says, too many tabs, how does she know? Lol. I know everything. My dear, was Bob's mild answer, Christmas Day. I'll drink his health for your sake and the day's, said Mrs. Cratchit. Not for his. Long life to him. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. He'll be very merry and very happy, I have no doubt. The children drank the toast after her. It was the first of their proceedings which had no heartiness. Tiny Tim drank it last of all, but he didn't care twopence for it. Scrooge was the ogre of the family. The mention of his name cast a dark shadow on the party, which was not dispelled for a full 5 minutes. After it passed away, they were 10 times merrier than before, from the mere relief of Scrooge and the baleful being done with. Bob Cratchit told them how he had a situation in his eye for Master Peter, which would bring in, if obtained, full 5 and 6 pence weekly. The two young Cratchits laughed tremendously at the idea of Peter's being a man of business, and Peter looked himself thoughtfully at the fire from between his collars, as if he were deliberating what particular investments he should favor when he came to the receipt of that bewildering income. Don't spend money that you don't have. But life goals, always have goals. Martha, who was a poor apprentice at a milliner's, then told them what kind of work she had to do, and how many hours she worked at a stretch, and how she meant to lie abed to morrow's morning for a good long rest. Tomorrow being a holiday she had passed at home. Also how she had seen a countess and a lord some days before, and how the lord was much about as tall as Peter, at which Peter pulled up his collars so high that you couldn't have seen his head if you had been there. All this time the chestnuts and the jug went round and round, and by the by they had a song about a lost child traveling in the snow, from Tiny Tim, who had a plaintive little voice and sang it very well indeed. Now I know why performers had like a glass or a cup, a huge stein of beer, because your mouth gets pretty dry after reading page by page. My goodness. Okay. All right, guys, I'm going to take a quick break to use the restroom. But in the meantime, I'm going to actually put you guys to my Nate says, I know everything. No, looks at you in a shocked face, lol. I'm going to put you guys by my decorations so that whoops. I don't know. Let's see. How can I go like that? I'll even turn it on in a second. Okay. That. And. Okay. Charles says, "Hi, Miss Mara. And all, sorry I've been MIA. Nice of you to join once again, Charles." Nate says, "Oh man, corner time again, lol." Yeah, everybody had to be subjected to that. St. Charles says, "Gee, I've only missed an hour this time. 4 p.m. Cali time is siesta time for me." Carlton says, "Hi." Hello, Carlton. And St. Charles says, "There she is." Restroom break. I've been hydrating because reading really does make your throat dry. But we're already on page 8 out of 14. Okay. "My dear" was Bob's. Oh, wait. I read that. Oh, no. Hold on. Where am I? Oh, yeah. Tiny Tim just sang about a lost child traveling in the snow. Graham says, "The Victorian area is very familiar. My great-grandfather was born in the 19th century. In 1880, the Yule bow was replaced by the German tradition of the Christmas tree by Victoria's husband, Albert." Yes, we talked about the first interior decorated tree, which was in Britain, and it was illustrated. And it's online that you can actually find this illustration. It was like 1605, I believe. No, wait. If you said 1880... No, it is. The first... Because I saw it. Okay, the first Christmas tree in... Oh, maybe the first outdoor one was there. It said the first known English tree was at the Queen's Lodge in December of 1800? No, wait. That's not the Christmas tree. There's so many stories on it. I don't know which one's the true documentation of it. A Christmas tree for the German soldiers in a temporary hospital was erected in 1871. Yeah, but 1605 was the decorated Christmas trees that were that appeared in Germany. So it's not the first, I guess, British tree, but that's the first Christmas trees that made their appearance. And then in 1840, Prince Albert imported several spruce firs from his native Coburg. And then in 1845 until the 1850s, it became a custom, and it caught on with the masses in England. St. Charles says, "What's in the Posé Café glass?" Oh, in this? It's just aqua. It's agua. Water. Yeah. I'm not drinking yet. St. Charles says, let's not be talking about Prince Albert now. Graham says, in England, the Yule bow was a persistent tradition until the late 19th century. Ha! The Prince Albert piercing, ouch. I've never played with someone who had that. I've always seen somebody who was in the distance who had it, or like, I knew people who had it, but I never played with, like, friends who had those piercings, but never played with someone who had it. Man, the first person that I play with who has that, I would love to film, because that would be so fun. Okay. There was nothing of high mark in this. They were not a handsome family. They were not well dressed. Their shoes were far from being waterproof. Wow, they had waterproof shoes back then? I guess rubber boots. Their clothes were scanty, and Peter might have known, and very likely did, the inside of a pawnbroker's. But they were happy, grateful, pleased with one another, and contented with the time. And when they faded and looked happier, yet in the bright sprinklings of the Spirit's torch at parting, he's like the fairy godfather. Scrooge had his eye upon them, and especially on Tiny Tim, until the last. By this time it was getting dark and snowing pretty heavily, and as Scrooge and the Spirit went along the streets, the brightness of the roaring fires in the kitchens, parlors, and all sorts of rooms was wonderful. Here, the flickering of the blaze showed preparations for a cozy dinner with hot plates baking through and through before the fire, and deep red curtains ready to be drawn to shut out the cold and darkness. There all the children of the house were running out into the snow to meet their married sisters, brothers, cousins, uncles, aunts, and to be the first to greet them. Here, again, were shadows on the window blind of guests assembling, and there were a group of handsome girls, all hooded and fur-booted, all chattering at once, tripped lightly off to some near neighbor's house, where, woe upon the single man who saw them enter, artful witches, well they knew it, in a glow. Oh, youngsters. Graham says, my goth pal Kath and her daughter Jet are very fond of their piercings. Very pretty biker ladies. Awesome. I only have these two piercings. That is all. But if you had judged from the members of the people on their way to friendly gatherings, you might have thought that no one was at home to give them welcome when they got there. Instead of every house expecting company and piling it up its fires half chimney high. Blessings on it, how the ghost exulted, how it bared its breadth of breast and opened its capacious palm and floated on, outpouring with a generous hand. Its bright and harmless mirth on everything within its reach, the very lamplighter who ran on before, dotting the dusky street with specks of light, and who was dressed to spend the evening somewhere, laughed out loudly as the Spirit passed, though little kenned the lamplighter that he had any company but Christmas. It's okay, he's happy. Let him live his life. And now, without a word of warning from the ghost, they stood upon a bleak and desert moor, where monstrous masses of rude stone were cast about as though it were a burial place of giants, and water spread itself wheresoever it listed, or would have done so, before the frost that held it prisoner, and nothing grew but moss and furze, and coarse rank grass. Down in the west, the setting sun had left a streak of fiery red which glared upon the desolation for an instant. Like a sullen eye, a frowning lower, lower yet, was lost in the thick gloom of darkest night. What place is this? Asked Scrooge. A place where miners live, who labor in the bowels of the earth, returned the Spirit. But they know me, see? This sounds like the place in Lord of the Rings where like all those like orcs and stuff were like mining and for the war, the final war for Saruman. That's what I have in my head anyway. David says, let me guess, this is the ghost of Christmas present. Yes, it is. Good job. Also because we ended on the ghost of Christmas past, so logically this would be the next one. But yes, you're right. A light shone from the window of a hut, and swiftly they advanced towards it. Passing through the wall of mud and stone, they found a cheery company assembled round a glowing fire. An old man and woman, and with their children and their children's children, and another generation beyond that, all decked out gaily in their holiday attire. The old man, in a voice that seldom rose above the howling of the wind upon the barren waste, was singing them a Christmas song. It had been a very old song when he was a boy, and from time to time they all joined in the chorus. So surely as they raised their voices, the old man got quite blithe and loud, and so surely as they stopped, his vigor sank again. The spirit did not tarry here, but bade Scrooge hold his robe, and passing on above the moor, sped whither, not to see, to see. To Scrooge's horror, looking back, he saw the last of land, a frightful range of rocks behind them, and his ears were deafened by the thundering of water as it rolled and roared and raged among the dreadful caverns it had worn, and fiercely tried to undermine the earth. Built upon an abysmal reef of sunken rocks some league or so from shore, on which waters chafed and dashed the wild year through, there stood a solitary lighthouse. Great heaps of seaweed clung to its base, and storm birds, that's awesome, not seagulls that try to fly and rat themselves to our snacks while we're at the beach. And storm birds born of the wind, might one suppose, as seaweed of the water rose and fell about it, like the waves they skimmed. Or albatrosses. Graham says, compliments to your majesty on your emerald attire, very seasonal. You are thinking of Isengard in The Lord of the Rings. Yes, I was wearing green this whole time. Every single chapter that I've read, I've worn a sort of green. And they've all been plush and velvet too, actually, now that I think about it. But the next time it won't be, I don't think. It'll be either silky or shiny. But thank you, Graham. David says, well, Nate, I was busy on something and I was late. Oh, Nate says, at David, pretending to be Domna here, why aren't you paying attention? Go to the corner. Lol. No, I didn't send you to the corner for being late. I sent you to the corner for, being sassy. And missing something that I said while you were on stream. Nate says at Dave, same too, just kidding, man. David says, one ring to rule them all. Yeah, see, this is why nobody can have absolute power, because it just corrupts anybody who seeks it. Okay. Steven says, can I be sent to the corner too? You haven't done anything to earn that. But if you want to stand in the corner, you can. I'll allow that. But even here, two men who watched the light had made a fire that through the loophole in the thick stone wall shed out a ray of brightness on the awful sea. Joining their horny hands over the rough table at which they sat, they wished each other Merry Christmas in their can of grog. And one of them, The elder too, with his face all damaged and scarred with the hard weather, as the figurehead of an old ship may be, struck up a sturdy song that was like a gale in itself. Yay, seamen! Nate says, yet you're the powerful one. Winky face. Yes, I can administer my power and take yours away, but you have to earn the place to even be here. Or earn my attention for even doing that. Graham says, velvet is always a winning choice. I look forward to seeing Mistress in shiny fabrics. I have a fondness for silk and satin. My, Lady Luck film, short film, I wear a silk gown in that. Carlton says, logically, only a maximum of 4 can be sent to the corners of the room. Well, luckily I have multiple rooms. But yeah, you're right. If you want to be in the same room as... Actually, no, that's wrong. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 corners in this room. And there's only 9 of you watching right now. So technically everybody could fit in a corner. And that's because if you can see, my room is oddly shaped. There's like a corner right here. There's a corner right here. There's a corner right there. So you are square, my good sir. David says, what part of the chapter are we, may I ask, mistress? Yes, you can follow along. I've linked the story up on this chat. It's pinned to the top. I am on page 10 of chapter 3. So, as a recap for those who are new, all of Scrooge saw the pleasant side to Christmas. That is like the town, and they went to his clerk's house where they saw his family, and even though they didn't really have a lot of things, they still celebrated Christmas to the fullest, and because they were, you know, just a really good family. And he witnessed Tiny Tim, who isn't doing so well and who may not last if his stinginess continues to go throughout the years with his clerk. And now I guess they left land and shot out into sea, and they passed this lighthouse. And these are the characters who are in the lighthouse area. I don't remember this part at all, actually. Carlton says the Dirty Dozen. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a Quentin Tarantino movie. Like the 7 or the 8. I haven't seen that movie yet either, so. Again, the ghost sped on, above the black and heaving sea, on and on, until being far away, as he told Scrooge, from any shore, they lighted on a ship. They stood beside the helmsman at the wheel, and the lookout on the bow, the officers who had the watch, dark ghostly figures in their several stations, but every man among them hummed a Christmas tune, or had a Christmas thought, or spoke below his breath to his companion of some bygone Christmas day, with homeward hopes belonging to it. And every man on board, waking or sleeping, good or bad, had had a kinder word for another on that day than on any day in the year, and had shared to some extent in its festivities, and had remembered those he cared for at a distance, and had known that they delighted to remember him. Steven says, then would Miss Mara be Major Reisman? I don't know who that is, so maybe if that's a cool character and suits my demeanor. Nate says, Domina, because you mentioned the Lady Luck short, which of your short films is your favorite and which was the best to film? This may be the right time, I know. Lady Luck was really, really inspired by the place. Actually, no, so was Cocoon. I would have to say that Cocoon might be my favorite short film, but Lady Luck was more fun to film. They both kind of took around the same amount of time. However, Lady Luck was a little cramped because that took longer, and one of my models had to leave. So it was fun, but it was a lot of work because it was me and the cinematographer directing, you know, the others that were involved. Steven says, and is she going to choose all 12 of us war criminals to go on a suicide mission to assault the Nazi stronghold? Oh, is this from, oh my god, what the, Inglourious Bastards? Was that, Brad Pitt's character? Nate says, might not be the right time. Oh yeah, typo. Graham says The Dirty Dozen, the inspiration for DC's Suicide Squad and Marvel's Thunderbolts. Oh, actually, you know, I haven't seen the Suicide Squad, the new movie, live action one, but there were some direct to video films animated of Suicide Squad, and they were pretty, like, they cussed in that one. They were very aggressive, but like it was to the true nature of each of the like villains and their situation too. I like that they gave us background on why they became the Suicide Squad. Steven says The Dirty Dozen is a series of World War II films about a group of screw-ups and war convicts handpicked and retained by Major Reisman to undergo a near-suicide mission to attack high-security Nazi facilities. Oh. David says, have you ever seen the movie called A Christmas Carol 2019? Because watching it right now. No, I have not. But didn't someone mention that the other day? Wasn't that the comedy one? Like it was a comic drama or something? Nate says, and there's a new Suicide Squad coming in 2021, I hope. Oh, I mean, I'm kind of whatever. Graham says, everyone loves anti-heroes. It's interesting because everybody sees hero is very like relative, because hero could be heroes to that country, right? Like some people thought the Nazis were heroes because they were following their Führer or whatever, and everybody else was like, hell no, this guy's like super evil, you know, and it was all like propaganda and stuff. And yeah. Steven says some of these war convicts and enlisted men were already court-martialed and sentenced to death, so by agreeing to accept this in exchange, if they lived through it, they could be pardoned. Yeah, that's kind of like the basis for a lot of like films, right? It's like, hey, we need your expertise to do something, or we just need bodies to go and do these things. But since you are putting your life on the line, like, you get immunity when you're out. Like, even, what is that, Death Game or something? Death Race? The one where they were all, like, in Mad Max cars kind of thing, and they all had to, like, pretty much beat each other on the racetrack by, like, blowing each other up. There were, like, no rules, and you can deck out your car however you wanted. I think it was Death Race or something, and Gerard Butler's in it, and he, I don't know, if you won, you could get free. Same with the Colosseum back in the day. Where's Stan? With the Romans, it's like, you know, prisoners fought each other, and then the winner would just keep fighting or possibly get let go if he won enough or whatever. Mortimer says, hello from Germany. Hello. Welcome to my channel. Nate said Death Race and then retracted his message. Steven says, but that was basically the premise of the script for the Dirty Dozen movies. Oh, okay, cool. Love it. What year was that, by the way? All right, back to the story. We have 4 more pages. Well, kind of 3.5, but it was a great surprise to Scrooge while listening to the moaning of the wind and thinking what a solemn thing it was to move on through the lonely darkness over an unknown abyss, whose depths were secrets as profound as death. It was a great surprise to Scrooge, while thus engaged, to hear a hearty laugh. It was a much greater surprise to Scrooge to recognize it as his own nephew's, and to find himself in a bright, dry, gleaming room with the spirit standing, smiling by his side, and looking at the same nephew with approving affability. I like the nephew. Carlton says, I'm a screw-up of sorts. Still haven't gotten around to watching the film yet, The Dirty Dozen, starring Telesavalas. St. Charles says, Guten Abend, Mortimer. Is that good evening? I never knew how to say it, so yay. Graham says, Mistress makes a very good point. Mythological and legendary heroes embody the values of their culture. Mistress is probably thinking of Death Race, the 2000 movie, originally starred David Carradine. Oh, I didn't know that. Mortimer says, Guten Abend. And says, yes, to good evening. Stephen says, the Dirty Dozen movie started in 1967 and Lee Marvin played as Major Reisman. Cool. Okay. Ha ha, laughed Scrooge's nephew. Ha ha ha. If you should happen by any unlikely chance to know a man more blessed in a laugh than Scrooge's nephew, all I can say is I should like to know him too. Introduce him to me and I'll cultivate his acquaintance. I want somebody to say that about me, that they like my laugh and can distinguish it so much that they would want to get to know me just by that. It is a fair, even-handed, noble adjustment of things that while there is infection and disease and sorrow, there is nothing in the world so irresistibly contagious as laughter and good humor. Very true. When Scrooge's nephew laughed this way, holding his sides, rolling his head, and twisting his face into the most extravagant contortions, Scrooge's niece, by marriage, laughed as heartily as he, and their assembled friends, being not a bit behindhand, roared out lustily. Ha ha! Ha 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 ha! He said that Christmas was a humbug as I live, cried Scrooge's nephew. He believed it too. More shame for him, Fred, said Scrooge's niece indignantly. Bless those women. They never do anything by halves. They're always in earnest. She was very pretty, exceedingly pretty, with a dimpled, surprised-looking capital face, a ripe little mouth that seemed to be kissed, as no doubt it was. All kinds of good little dots about her chin that melted into one another when she laughed, and the sunniest pair of eyes you ever saw in a little creature's head. Altogether, she was what you would have called provoking, you know, but satisfactory. That's like taking a step backwards. Satisfactory is not provoking. Provoking is more enticing. Nate says, Dom and I was confused. That's why I deleted the comment. But yes, it is Death Race, but not with Gerard Butler. It was Jason Statham. Oh, yeah. Okay. David says, oh yes, his nephew. Graham says, David Carradine appeared in the 70s TV show Kung Fu when the producers rejected Bruce Lee. A great shame. A great shame indeed. He's a comical old fellow, said Scrooge's nephew. That's the truth, and not so pleasant as he may be. However, his offenses carry their own punishment, and I have nothing to say against him. I'm sure he's very rich, Fred hinted Scrooge's niece. At least you always tell me so. What of that, my dear, said Scrooge's nephew. His wealth is of no use to him. He won't do any good with it. He don't make himself comfortable with it. He hasn't the satisfaction of thinking, ha ha ha, that he is ever going to benefit us with it. I have no patience with him, observed Scrooge's niece. Scrooge's niece's sisters and all the other ladies expressed the same opinion. Oh, I have, said Scrooge's nephew. I am sorry for him. I couldn't be angry with him if I tried. Who suffers by his whims? Or wills. Himself, always. Here he takes it to his head to dislike us, and he won't come and dine with us. What's the consequence? He don't lose much of a dinner. Indeed, I think he loses a very good dinner, interrupted Scrooge's niece. Everybody else said the same, and they must be allowed to have been competent judges because they just had dinner. And with the dessert upon the table, were clustered around the fire by lamplight. Well, I'm very glad to hear it, said Scrooge's nephew, because I haven't great faith in these young housekeepers. What do you say, Topper? Topper had clearly got his eye upon one of Scrooge's niece's sisters, for he answered that a bachelor was a wretched outcast who had no right to express an opinion on the subject. Wow, way to heavily hint on that. Whereat Scrooge's niece's sister, the plump one with the lace tucker, not the one with the roses, blushed. Do go on, Fred, said Scrooge's niece, clapping her hands. He never finishes what he begins to say. He's such a ridiculous fellow. I like her. Scrooge's nephew reveled in another laugh, and as it was impossible to keep the infection off, though the plump sister tried hard to do it with an aromatic vinegar, his example was unanimously followed. I was only going to say, said Scrooge's nephew, that the consequence of his taking a dislike to us and not making merry with us is, as I think, that he loses some pleasant moments, which could do him no harm. I'm sure he loses pleasanter companions than he can find in his own thoughts, either in his moldy old office or his dusty chambers. I mean to give him the same chance every year, whether he likes it or not, for I pity him. May he rail at Christmas until he dies, but he can't help thinking better of it. I defy him. If he finds me going there, in good temper, year after year, and saying, Uncle Scrooge, how are you? If it only puts him in the vein to leave his poor clerk £50, that's something. And I think I shook him yesterday. He's right. It was their turn to laugh now at the notion of his shaking Scrooge. But being thoroughly good-natured and not much caring what they laughed at, so that they laughed at any rate, he encouraged them in their merriment and passed the bottle joyously. David asks, have you seen the funniest stupid movie called Eurotrip? I have not. Isn't that like a stoner comedy? Graham says, Eurotrip sounds like some of my old hippie friends. I mean, they both smoke the same stuff. After tea, they had some music, for they were a musical family and knew what they were about. When they sung a glee or catch, I can assure you, especially Topper, who could growl away in the bass like a good one, and never swell the large veins in his forehead or get red in the face over it. Scrooge's niece played well upon the harp. Ooh, a harpist. She good with her fingers. And played among other tunes in simple little air. A mere nothing, you might learn to whistle it in 2 minutes. Which had been familiar to the child who fetched Scrooge from the boarding school, as he had been reminded by the ghost of Christmas past. When this strain of music sounded, all the things that ghost had shown him came upon his mind. He softened more and more, and thought that if he could listen to it often years ago, he might have cultivated the kindness of life for his own happiness and with his own hands, without resorting to the sexton's spade of the buried Jacob Marley. Yeah, music does the body good. But they didn't devote the whole evening to music. After a while they played at forfeits. For it is good to be children sometimes, and never better than at Christmas, when its mighty founder was a child himself. Stop. There was a first game at Blind Man's Bluff. Of course there was. And I no more believe Topper was really blind than I believe his eyes had boots. My opinion is that it was a done thing between him and Scrooge's nephew, and that the ghost of Christmas present knew it. The way he went around that plump sister and the lace tucker was an outrage on the credulity of human nature. Mortimer asked, do you smoke weed? I don't like to because it burns my throat, and I don't like that feeling because it just doesn't feel good to me. And then, I mean, I do it socially if I really like the company I'm in and if we're about to talk some philosophy. But it also kind of makes me sleepy. And then same with edibles. Like, I'm very particular and I have to like figure out how much I can take because I get very sleepy and hungry. Steven has tipped $3. Thank you for your tip. What is the tip for, Steven? I like your super sticker with the blow kiss. Knocking down the fire irons, tumbling over the chairs, bumping against the piano, smothering himself among the curtains. Wherever she went, there he went. He always knew where the plump sister was. He wouldn't catch anybody else. If you had fallen up against him, as some of them did, on purpose, he would have made a feint of endeavoring to seize you, which would have been an affront to your understanding, and would instantly have sidled off in the direction of the plump sister. She often cried out that it wasn't fair, and it really was not. But when at last he caught her, when, in spite of all of her silken rustlings and her rapid flutterings past him, he got her into a corner. Hey, they're in a corner too, the naughty corner. Whence there was no escape, then his conduct was the most execrable. For his pretending not to know her, his pretending that it was necessary to touch her headdress, and further to assure himself of her identity by pressing a certain ring upon her finger, and a certain chain upon her neck, was vile, monstrous. No doubt she told him her opinion of it, when, another blind man being in office, they were so confidently together behind curtains. Graham says, depends on the type of music. I've often been to see bands that made the ears bleed. True. But it's sometimes good for the soul. It's cathartic, you know, to be metal sometimes. Mortimer says, I like weed cake. I don't think I've ever had a weed cake. I've had a chocolate. I've never even had a brownie before. Been meaning to try one. Oh, no, wait, I did have a brownie one time. But it was so small, and I don't think there was a lot in it. It was more for, like, relaxation than anything else. Stephen says, to read with a Victorian accent for ever how long a duration you see for this amount. The tip was for that. I know the ghost of present's secret. Don't spoil it, David. Okay, So I'm going to pour myself more water because Lord knows I'm going to need help with this accent. But I will read the next paragraph because the next paragraph is going to end the page. And then we have two left. Okay. Graham says, I always remember being offered hash cake by a kid from the Hippie Peace Convoy at the last Stonehenge Free Festival. Great event. I bet you it was a great event after eating that. Mortimer's asking, is it legal in LA? Yes, it is. It's legal in California. Many shops have opened since then. So, yes. Many shops in walking distance from me, actually, as well. Mortimer says not in Germany. But you guys are close enough to Amsterdam where it is. No? Charles says, thank you for this, Miss Mara. I love listening to you. You're welcome. Thanks for joining. All right, I'm going to attempt. Don't make fun of me. This was a request. Mortimer says, but I don't care. Just don't get caught. Scrooge's niece was not one of the blind man's bluff party, but was made comfortable with a large chair and a footstool in a snug corner where the ghost and Scrooge were close behind her. But she joined in the forfeits, and loved her love to admiration with all the letters of the alphabet. Likewise, at the game of how, when, and where, she was very great. And to the secret joy of Scrooge's nephew, beat her sisters hollow. Though they were sharp girls too, as could have told you. There might have been 20 people there, young and old, but they all played, and so did Scrooge, for, wholly forgetting the interest he had in what was going on, that his voice made no sound in their ears, he simply came out with his guess quite loud, and very often guessed quite right too, for the sharpest needle, best Whitechapel, warranted not to cut in the eye, was not sharper than Scrooge, blunt as he took it in his head to be. That was the end of the paragraph. That was really fast, actually. Graham says, California gets more attractive by the moment. All this and the world's most beautiful mistress. Oh, you flatterer. Graham says, Mistress speaks the Queen's English impeccably, ... I don't know. I'm probably offending a lot of Brits out there, but it's okay, because it's all for fun. St. Charles says, we're sliding into the sewer. You'd be disappointed. Wait, I don't understand that, saying? Disappointed in what? Steven says, that sounded amazing. Blow kiss. Thank you. The ghost was greatly pleased to find... Oh, St. Charles says disappointed in California. I love California. I will forever be a Californian. No matter if I move and live somewhere else, I will always be a Californian. At heart. The ghost was greatly pleased to find him in this mood, and looked upon him with such favor that he begged like a boy to be allowed to stay until the guest departed. But this the spirit said could not be done. Here is a new game, said Scrooge. 1/2 hour, spirit. Only one. It was a game called Yes and No, where Scrooge's nephew had to think of something, and the rest must find out what. He only answering to their questions, yes or no, as the case was. Oh, they had this game back then too. The brisk fire of questioning was to be the brisk fire of questioning to which he was exposed elicited from him that he was thinking of an animal, a live animal, rather a disagreeable animal, a savage animal, an animal that growled and grunted sometimes, and talked sometimes, and lived in London, and walked about the streets, and wasn't made a show of, and wasn't led by anybody, and didn't live in a menagerie, and was never killed in a market, and was not a horse or an ass or a cow or a bull or a tiger or a dog or a pig or a cat or a bear. At every fresh question that was put to him, his nephew burst into a fresh roar of laughter, and was so inexpressibly tickled that he was obliged to get off of the sofa and stamp. At last the plump sister, falling into a similar state, cried out, "I have found it out! I know what it is, Fred! I know what it is!" "What is it?" cried Fred. "It is your Uncle Scrooge," which it certainly was. Admiration was the universal sentiment, though some objected that the reply to "Is it a bear?" ought to have been a yes, inasmuch as an answer in the negative was sufficient to have diverted their thoughts from Mr. Scrooge, supposing they had ever had any tendency that way. Aw, they're mean. But I guess he's mean too, so. More, David asks, do you live here in California? Yes, I am in Los Angeles. Originally from the Bay Area. Mortimer says, I live in Berlin. I have yet to visit Berlin for their kinky stuff. Raymond says, hi, Miss Mara. I didn't know you were on during the week. I'm not usually, but I started reading A Christmas Carol last Sunday, and I really got into it, and so I decided I wanted to see how far I could get with the book, and so I was only able to read the first chapter that day, and then I read the second chapter on Monday, and then today I had some time. After a really long day, I needed to decompress, so I decided to read the third chapter, which is almost ending. And then I will read the fourth chapter on Sunday. Carlton says, you could pass for an English woman, Miss Mara. British view. Thumbs up by a British viewer. Ooh, I think I have to practice a little bit more. I may be able to do it if I stayed in London for like 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks and I might be able to do it. Graham says, I've always wanted to visit the West Coast. I only got as far as Nevada on my US jaunt. Yes, so you've mentioned, and you also have relatives in San Francisco. Telly Pooh Bear says, I live in Bel Air, California. Maybe we should do the reading in your house. Ooh, sorry. Dear Tiger. Steven says, I hear weed is legal in Vancouver too. But even so, I DC to partake in it. Oh, I don't care to partake in it. I thought that was like the organization that goes against it. All marijuana to me is merely but a 5-leaf plant. I don't see anything special about it. It's not my thing of choice either. Like I said, I would probably do it if it's social and somebody offered it to me and I was going to stay there for quite a while. Because then you match the energy of everybody else that's around you. Mortimer says, nice. Steven says, I was born in California but live in Ohio now. Oh. Where in California? Graham says, in Jamaica it really does grow like a weed, so my West Indian friends tell me. It grows fast if you take care of it. David says, 2 weeks in London? I hope in the near future, my goodness. It's taking forever, this lockdown. St. Charles says, waves to Telly Pooh Bear from Fountain Valley. Nate says, oh, Domina, I forgot to say thank you for accepting me on FetLife. I know you're hardly on it and I might leave it due to drama, but it was nice to be accepted by you there. Ah, red heart. Red heart to you too. Hey, my locket today is a heart, actually. All right. Let's see. He has given us plenty of merriment, I'm sure, said Fred, and it would be ungrateful not to drink to his health. Here's a glass of mulled wine ready to our hand at the moment, and I say, Uncle Scrooge. Well, Uncle Scrooge, they cried. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to the old man, whatever he is, said Scrooge's nephew. He wouldn't take it from me, but may he have it nevertheless, Uncle Scrooge. Uncle Scrooge had imperceptibly become so gay and light of heart that he would have pledged an unconscious company in return and thanked them in an inaudible speech, if the ghost had given him the time. But the whole scene passed off in a breath of the last words spoken by his nephew, and he and the spirit were again upon their travels. Much they saw and far they went, and many homes they visited, but always with a happy end. The spirits stood beside sick beds, and they were cheerful. On foreign lands they were close at home. By struggling men, and they were patient in their greater hope. By poverty, and it was rich. In almshouse, hospital, and jail. In misery's every refuge, where vain man, in his little brief authority, had not made fast the door and barred the spirit out. He left his blessing and taught Scrooge his precepts. Graham says, I was going to visit London last week, but the latest lockdown prevented it. Boo. Steven says, Mission Viejo, the outskirts of LA, and then lived in Laguna Niguel, right dead center between LA and San Diego in the Orange County area. No. Mortimer says, my ex-crush wants to have a sub. Dealing with exes can be very tricky, so be careful. I also accept subs via online, remote, if you are interested in applying. Steven says, just curious though, has anyone been to South America? Yes, I lived in South America for 4 years. My father's from Brazil. I lived in Argentina and Brazil for 2 years each. Mortimer says, just crush. Oh yeah, that's true. Okay, you're okay, I guess. Not loved. Touché. It was a long night, if it were only a night, but Scrooge had his doubts of this because the Christmas holidays appeared to be condensed into a space of time they passed together. It was strange, too, that while Scrooge remained unaltered in his outward form, the ghost grew older, clearly older. Scrooge had observed this change, but never spoke of it until they left a children's 12th night party, when, looking at the spirit, they stood together in an open place. He noticed that its hair was gray. Are spirits' lives so short? Asked Scrooge. My life upon this globe is very brief, replied the ghost. It ends tonight. Tonight, said Scrooge. Tonight at midnight. Hark, the time is drawing near. The chimes were ringing at 11:15 at that moment. Forgive me if I am not justified in what I ask, said Scrooge, looking intently at the spirit's robe. But I see something strange, and not belonging to yourself, protruding from your skirts. Is it a foot or a claw? It might be a claw, for flesh there is upon it, was the spirit's sorrowful reply. Look here. From the foldings of his robe it brought 2 children, wretched, abject, frightful, hideous, miserable. They knelt down at his feet and clung upon the outside of its garment. Oh, man, look here, look down here, exclaimed the ghost. There were a boy and a girl, yellow, meager, ragged, scowling, wolfish, but prostrate too in their humility. Where graceful youth should have filled their features and touched them with its freshest tints. A stale and shriveled hand like that of age, and pinched and twisted them and pulled them into shreds. Where angels may have sat enthroned, devils lurked and glared out menacing. Oh, I love that. No change, no degradation, no perversion of humanity in any grade. Through all the mysteries of wonderful creation has monsters half so horrible and dread. Scrooge started back, appalled. Having them shown to him in his way, he tried to say that they were fine children, but the words choked themselves rather than be parties to a lie of such enormous magnitude. Spirit, are they yours? Scrooge could say no more. They are man's, said Scrooge, looking down upon them, and they cling to me, appealing from their fathers. This boy is ignorance, this girl is want. Beware them both, and all of their degree, but most of all beware this boy, for on his brow I see that written, which is doom. Unless writing can be erased, deny it, cried the spirit, stretching out its hand towards the city. Slander those who tell ye. Admit it for your fascious admit it for your fascist purposes, and make it worse, and abide the end. They have no refuge or resource, cried Scrooge. Are there no prisons? said the spirit, turning on him for the last time with his own words. Are there no workhouses? The bell struck 12. Scrooge looked about him for the ghost and saw it not. As the last stroke ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley and lifted up his eyes, beheld to a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground towards him. That is the end of chapter 3. All right. St. Charles says, Mission Vieja and Luna Niguel are a very nice place. Steven says, I was in Colombia for half a year. David says, when all of COVID-19 is over, my first trip, I'm going to Miami. Oh, what's in Miami? I was thinking of visiting Florida again because I haven't been there in years. And I really loved Disney World. Mortimer says, I am a Switch. Oh, very nice. Graham says, Miami sounds cool. My friend, I know Disney World is in Orlando. I'm just saying I wanted to go to Florida. Graham says, Miami sounds cool. My friend wants me to go to the Caribbean with her next year. Oh, I haven't been to the Caribbean either. There's so many places. David says, ignorance and want. Nate says, factious. I always wanted to say factitious, but it's not right. Tilly Pooh Bear says, what are you doing over the holidays with COVID lockdown? I'm actually going to probably drive back up to San Francisco and see my family. I went to Napa Valley with them for my mother's birthday and for Thanksgiving this past November. However, due to lockdown and for flying, I'm not very comfortable with that, so I may be driving and going to see them for that time. So if I stream over Sunday, I'm not sure if I will because it is Christmas weekend, but if I do stream, it'll be from San Francisco. Steven says, my grandpa is a retired colonel from the Army down there, trained and worked with their anti-narcotics task force to intervene against drug traffickers and armed smugglers. Whoa, that's intense, man. That's cool. All right, everybody, we are approaching the 2-hour mark. And I kind of have to go get groceries, so I may leave you at that. If you like this video, though, give it a thumbs up. If you have any last questions, comments, anything that you want to say, now is the time. Otherwise, I am putting out a video on Saturday. Actually, I have a lot of collabs that I'm going to be putting out within the next week because it is Christmas coming soon. And so I want people to be very, it's Christmas next week. Oh my gosh. Christmas Eve is a week from now, which was kind of crazy. But yes, so Saturday I'm putting out a video at 1 p.m. You can premiere it with me at that time. And then Sunday I am going to be streaming. It'll be the final chapter, but it's only 4 pages, so it'll go by really quick and we can move on to other conversation. And then yeah, I'm gonna be putting out a couple more videos. David said, Nate says, I was gonna ask you what was next now, lol. It doesn't feel like Christmas, does it? Is it me? No, it's because this year has been weird. This year has been weird. David says, no offense, are you sure you're going to San Francisco? Yeah, why? What's the problem? Leaving early in the morning, get there by midday. Christmas Eve. St. Charles says 8 days away. Crazy, isn't it? So crazy. Steve says, Steve Branch says, I love your outfit. Oh yeah. Thank you, Steve. Nate says, don't you offend Domina, lol, JK. It's not offending me. Mortimer says, good night, mistress, with a laughing, crying face. Good night. Thank you for joining my stream. I hope you subscribe because I have awesome content. And live streams. But yeah. Telly Pooh Bear says, you take Amtrak to San Francisco. No. Someone's going to be driving me. I'll be a passenger. So, yeah. But yeah. If there are any other things that you guys want to say, I'm giving you 10 seconds to say it. 9, 8, 7, 6. Steven says, yeah, your outfit is cute. Thanks. Nate says, oh yeah, you don't have a car. No, I don't. I used to. Graham says, have a good shopping trip, ma'am. Thank you for a delightful stream as ever. Always a pleasure and a privilege. Stay safe, everyone. Aw, thank you, Graham. Steven says, I love it. Nate says, does a slave drive you? A sub, yes. They're headed to the same place. Amy says, you were alive just now. I'm actually ending, so I'm about to head off. St. Charles says, wow, that's a 6-hour drive. Yep. David says, I'll see you soon, mistress. I'm back on Saturday and Sunday. Steven says, suits you well. Thank you. Thank you for your tip today. And as always, thanks for joining. Charles says, may I tip you? I'm dying to see your feet. May I pretty please? Yes, you may. I will stay for that. Make it $10 though. And I'll include some shoes in there too. Or do you just want the feet? Who cares about the shoes? Nate says, when is the next live? I might have missed that info. Sunday evening. I don't know what time yet. Carlton says 10 seconds is not enough for me. I was on a 10-second delay. Make sure that you refresh your page so that you are up to date. Nate says, I posted that before you answered it, lol. Oh. St. Charles says shoes. Wait, St. Charles, you can't say that. Charles is the one who's tipping me. Yay! With a thank you sticker. Charles, you get to pick just feet or shoes as well. Amy says slancha. Kissy face times 3. Charles, tell me. Shoes or feet only? What is the best way to do this? Mistress's rule. Thank you, thank you. Amy, you're not allowed to answer. Amy says shoes, Charles. No. You did not tip and you came late. Although you did come onto my stream. St. Charles says, lifts the Tullamore Dew to Amy. Cheers to you guys. So, shoes? Okay, fine. Then let me do this in a more flattering way. And do this from... Yes. Charles says, Mistress, may I please see your shoes as well? Graham says, a wonderful camera angle. Steven says, I'll donate extra for shoes too. Oh, you guys are so sweet. All right, I'm moving you so that we can all have a better angle because right now it's not very flattering. So we will go over here. Wait, but now I can't see what you guys say. Hold on. Let me turn my... Okay. And let's go up like so. I don't even know if that's going to be good. Okay. Amy says, let's all put our heels on just now. St. Charles says, thanks, Stephen. Charles says, thank you, mistress. Okay. So, nope. Too close. Let's see. All right. So, oh man, you can't see that either. How did I do it last time? Okay, wait. Hang on. Let's put you here. Oh, there's a bar in the way though. Hang on. There's a St. Charles and a Charles. Okay, I'm just gonna take this off. All right. Let's put you here. Okay. So, god damn. This is still not a good angle. I don't know. I'm like, let's see. One more thing. One more thing we can try. We gotta get this guy and attach it because the suspense though is building, I'm assuring. Oh my goodness. Okay, come on. Let's see. Jungle Climber says, hi, mistress. Smiley face. Graham says, 3 cheers for Stephen. St. Charles says, oh, check out those leggings. Carlton says, there are 2 Charles, I'm confused. And then Jungle Climber says, mistress needs a camera sub. Yes, I do. Steven says, try turning the camera vertical. No, because it just looks terrible. Amy says, loving the camera angles. Charles says, oh, I love this view, Domina. Graham says, it's an aesthetically pleasing perspective. Hang on. Okay, let's figure this out. So, that's still too close, damn it. Maybe I should sit. Hang on, let me grab a chair. And push that back. Okay. Let's do this properly. Wait. St. Charles says the plural of Charles is Charleses. Liam says, Ms. Mara, can you show me your back so I know what I'll see when I'm being ignored in the future? No, Liam, because you haven't tipped me. Steven says, here's another 5 to impatiently tap and stomp in your heels. Ooh, okay. And then Carlton says, are you accepting cameraman applications as of now? Laughing, crying face. St. Charles says, but he is the real saint. I'm just a crusty old pervert. Nate says, if you were doing what you did before, it was a low angle sitting on a chair, feet up close to the camera. I know, but I had a different setup. That's why it's weird, because I've been on the floor for reading. Amy says, can you stay alive for another half hour, please, mistress? Yes, if you tip me generously, like $50. Jungle Climber says, the Mistress Mara is so beautiful and divine. Liam says, sadly, I'm all out of money buying loads of secret Santa presents for my group. Well then, this is all you guys get. So enjoy it while you can. So I'm gonna show those shoes and the feet first because that's what Charles has tipped me. So these are the shoes. Kind of greenish blue. They look a lot bluer in the camera for some reason, but they're green here to match the green of my shirt. And let's see. These don't really, okay, they angle like that. St. Charles says, Amy, you'll need to shop and fix her dinner. Liam says, this definitely not a bad view anyway. Smiley face. Amy says, okay, fellow commenters, let's all chip in a total of $50. This is not including the people who have already tipped unless they want to. Amy says, at Charles, I would happily do that. Happy face. Charles says, thank you, Miss Mara. So good. XX. Graham says, a lovely Very iridescent. Yes, I've been trying to show these shoes for the last like 2 reads of A Christmas Carol, but nobody wanted to see them. So I was like, okay, I guess they'll just sit on the floor next to me. Charles says, they're wonderful, Miss Mara. Heart eyes. Thank you. Jungle Climber says, does Mistress has sweaty feet doing sessions? And also, does she have a web page? Yes. My website is dominamara.com. Amy says, patent high heels are always a crowd pleaser, hug face. St. Charles says, clear nails. They're actually nude. There's no polish on them at all. Liam says, so this is my future. This angel just wow. Don't worry, Mara. I'll enjoy it because I won't be a bad boy. Jungle Climber says, licks and kisses, Mistress Mara. Oh. Licks and kisses Mistress Mara's feet, XX. Smiley face. St. Charles says, there surely are crowd pleasers. Liam says, I meant to say angle, but angel works anyway. Yes. All right, we're gonna get to stomping around. And let us see. All right. Okay, wait, is Steven here? Ooh, this might not be the best way to do this, but... Woo! Did not know that was open. All right. Hang on. Steven says, yes, he is. Liam says, what about you putting on wings and being a Christmas angel for a session? We'll see. We'll see what time of year it is. But yes, this is me tapping my feet and waiting for a sub, or waiting for you subs to come onto my stream while I read A Christmas Carol. Like, get in here now. It's not very loud on carpet, but... Amy says, loving your corset, goddess, heart eyes. Liam says, corsets are like the yummiest. Graham says, as Pope Gregory said of the pagan English, angels, not angles. Amy says, mistress attacked by her own rigid furnishings. Yes. Carlton says, attack of the 50-foot woman. Charles says, kiss. Liam says, you wouldn't do Christmas stuff in July? I mean, there is, quote, Christmas in July, so, yeah. Get in here now, though. And stop being late. These are very hard to stomp in. White wants me to grab the camera and do a power walk. No, but I will grab the camera and say thank you again for joining me on my stream, everyone. It's always a pleasure to have all of you. And like I mentioned, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Liam says, Mistress saying come in here, me waiting for the address so I could fly over half the world illegally and break it. Steven's quiet, so hopefully he's using the visuals as inspiration. But anyway, yes, thank you guys so much for coming. Like my video if you enjoyed the foot show. I will be back on Saturday with a new video and of course on Sunday with a new live stream. Steven says I'm still here. I know. Graham says, best wishes, ma'am. Likewise. Jungle Climber says, Mistress all sweaty sniffs her armpits and feet, lol. You're a scent fetishist. Liam says, Miss Mara, do you have a crown? I do have many crowns. Liam says, good night. St. Charles has 2 thumbs up. Done. Amy is asking, who am I spending Christmas with, Mistress? My family. Charles says, thank you, Mistress. Excite to see you again. Likewise, Charles. Stephen says, all right, well, if this is all for tonight, Mistress, then I hope you can have a good evening. Same to you. All right, Liam says scent is best. All right, take care, everyone. Stay safe out there.